All right, who's our first storyteller of the evening? Eddie, Hejka, happy birthday!
Okay. Middle school boys are idiots, or at least I was. And even when you have parents and teachers to guide you, you sometimes resist because you're a middle schooler, and what do you know? At least that's how it was for me back in September 1970. I was 11 years old, starting 7th grade at St. Peter and Paul, this Polish Catholic school on the west side of Detroit. And that year, for English, we had Sister Gervace, or as we boys called her, Sister Jerkface. Sorry, sister. And Sister made it her mission that first semester of 7th grade to teach all of us how to do a research paper. 10 pages long, 10 sources, footnotes, bibliography, outline, cover page, all typed on that old school typewriter because, there was no computer or internet, no cutting and pasting. You went to the library and you checked out microfilm to read journal articles. But that wasn't good enough for Sister. Before you could even start drafting your paper, you had to get each and every line approved by her. You had to write them out individually on index cards, and if it was okay, she'd write in her red pen, okay, and if not, she'd give it back to you, and you had to figure out what was wrong. And I'm looking around the class, and there's all these other kids with stacks and stacks of okayed cards, and I have a little handful, and I'm thinking, I'm never going to get this done. This is most of our grade. My mom and dad are going to kill me. Because they didn't play when it came to school. They had 11 kids and 7 boys who my dad kept in line. I'm walking home from school and I'm stressing out and I get an idea. I go in our little neighborhood store, Mary's, and I buy a pack of pens. I go home, I take the red pen and I practice writing. Okay, 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 till it looks like Sister's. Before you know it, I got all these okayed cards. And she gives me the go-ahead to start drafting my paper. I got away with it. With 40-plus kids in the class, she hadn't noticed. And I'm like, yes. And when the whole thing's said and done, the final version of that paper, I end up with the second best grade in the class, 94%. I'm like, yes. But then I get cocky. I beat the system. You get cocky, you get lazy. And whenever you get a bad grade on an assignment, and Sister gave lots of assignments, you have to get a parent's signature. And so I'm at home now with a handful of English papers I got to get signed. And I can't show these to my dad. So I do the next best thing. I pick up a pen. I practice writing. Thaddeus A. Hejka, my dad's signature. And I get away with it again. I'm like, yes. Now it's the beginning of January. I'm heading out of the school, and Sister stops me and hands me an envelope. Give this to your father. Of course, as soon as I leave the building, I tear the envelope open. I read it. It's a note to my dad saying my grades have dropped way off and he wants a parent-teacher conference. And I'm staring at this note and I'm thinking, I can't show this to my dad. He's got a belt. So I figure, what the heck? I'm in this far. I pick up a pen and I write a response. Dear Sister, I will be unable to meet with you regarding Eddie's grades because I'm now working afternoon shift at the plant. Sincerely, Thaddeus A. Hejka. Next day, Sister's got the letter. Who wrote this? Drags me down to the office, calls home. That night, I find myself in the convent, sandwiched between Sister and my dad. And she shows him the letter. Mr. Hejka, did you write this? No. Is this your signature? No, 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 no. Then she pulls out the index cards. On the way home, we're driving home in silence. I'm terrified. Finally, my dad looks at me and tells me how disappointed he is that I would lie to him and my mom, and that I would use his good name to lie to a nun, to Sister. But amazingly, I didn't get the belt. I mean, it's 48 years later. I'm still amazed I didn't get the belt. But what I did get was grounded. From that day in January till the end of the year, I was not allowed outside the house. I could walk to school, home from school. couldn't play any sports, couldn't go outside and play with my friends or brothers and sisters. I couldn't play inside the house, couldn't talk on the phone, listen to music, records, radio, television, none of that. All I could do was schoolwork, work I was assigned around the house, or read. And a surprising thing happened. When you actually do your schoolwork, I'd find myself in different classes like, wait, I know that. Oh, I know that. I'd be helping other kids with their work. I'd be helping the smart kids with their work. Who knew? Now it's April. Heading out of school, and sister stops me at the door. She says, Mr. Hejka, your work in recent months has been superlative. Now, I'd been reading, so I knew what that word meant. She says, if you want, I can call your father and ask him to lighten up on your punishment a little bit. Now, you'd think I'd be like, yes, thank you, sister. But my little 7th grade brain was still mad at her for catching me. And I'm thinking, don't do me any favors. So I muster all my self-control, and I look up at her as calmly as I can, and I say, no, thank you, sister. Excuse me. And I stay on house arrest. It wasn't until years later when I understood the importance of honesty and integrity to who we are as people that I realized that, when my 7th grade self was thinking, don't do me any favors, I hadn't understood that that sister and my parents already had. And though my dad's been gone 7 years, my mom is here, 94 years old. And I recently learned that Sister Gervace is alive and living in a retirement home for Franciscan nuns. And I wanted to let her know that that formerly rotten little kid, has himself, for the past 30 years, been a teacher, and much of that in middle school. Thank you, sister.